Good afternoon, film fans. Today I want to talk about a movie that I discovered on Tubi, which I didn't even know existed. And from the title, I thought it was going to be terrible. I thought it was going to be an exploitation film because it's called Babes with Blades. I figured, I'd probably watch about 5 minutes and then say, this is ridiculous. It's just another, movie where there's like women with big cleavage and not much else happens. Well, I'm completely wrong about that. And I was very surprised. It's a fun, action-packed steampunk kind of adventure with elements of fantasy in it and magic as well. Really well done. It was written, produced, directed, edited, scored, and all the stunts were arranged and the costumes designed by the woman who plays the hero, Cecily Fay, a beautiful British actress who, despite only being 4 foot 8 feet tall, comes off as a real badass swordswoman in this movie. Uh, it's a terrific story. It starts out tells us that it's been 12 years since these vicious barbarian kind of humanoids called the Viscerae attacked a planet called Sarnia and basically stripped it of all its natural resources, killed all of its citizens, except our hero Azura, who hid on one of their spaceships and was taken to a remote mining colony called Draga 5. Now the action opens back up on Draga 5, and she's now in her like early mid 20s. She's avoiding capture by the Viscerae guards of the rather vicious local section commander Sorrentine, who is played by Joelle Simpson. He's wonderfully, deliciously evil is the best way I can describe it. She comes across as both evil and kind of sexy, and not sympathetic, but very kind of attractive and repulsive at the same time, um, which is hard to pull off. She's obviously quite a good actress, and she's evading capture, and she's finally surrounded by a section of Viscerae guards, and they simply overwhelm her by numbers. There's only too many of them for her to attack, even though she's quite skilled, a skilled martial artist, and she's not even armed, and manages to kick like five of them and knock them out. Um, but they capture her, and this evil slave master, Seth, played by John Robb, places a slave collar on her neck, and it's also got a shock component in it. He's got a kind of high tech looking glove. Where if he presses the button, it can give her a shock that's so strong it actually renders her unconscious. He says, "You're mine now," and wakes up in what's basically a prison cell down in a basement somewhere of this rather dingy mining town. Um, and they're going to use her to fight in this arena where these jaded Viscerae kind of come for entertainment and watch mainly female captives fight each other to the death. And in her first match, she's paired up against a very tall, beautiful woman named Andromeda, who is played by Joe Marriott. And she's overpowers her because she's much taller than her, and she's a better skilled fighter than she is. She knocks the sword out of her hand, and uh, almost she's about to kill her with what looks sort of like a morning star. It's like a flail with vicious kind of barbed hooks on it. And for some reason, Sorrentine holds her thumb up. She doesn't want her killed. And she says to Seth, I think, that she wants to humiliate her to prove that she's the last Sarnian, and that she can't succeed at trying to rebel against them. In the B plot, there's a very small group of rebels who are basically raiding Viscerae supplies, stealing water and stealing medical supplies for their own people. And they have to be very careful because if they're captured by the guards, what they do is the Viscerae control the water on Draga, and if they find that people are rebelling, what they do is they cut the water down, ration down to the point where people are starting to starve to death and or die of thirst rather, and they'll turn them over rather than have that happen. So they use that as leverage. The rebels, it turns out, are planning to construct a force field around the water supply so that the Viceroy can't control it anymore and they can't use that leverage on them. But it's very in the very early stages, and they have a lot of planning to do. We go back to the prison cell where Azura is being healed by this kind of kind healer named Kewan, and Kewan, I think, he also sneaks her in a book. And the book is a book of martial arts and fighting skills, and it's written in Sarnian. And uh, Azura sees that there's a kind of a strange flower symbol over each of these illustrations of the combat stances. She says, "What's that?" And Kewan says, "Oh, that's the flower of Sarnia. And it supposedly has the power to bring back the dead and even to like restore planets. And it had apparently been stolen from Sarnia by Sorrentine and her forces. The Viceroy like to take trophies from the planets that they invade. And it's actually in her office in a kind of a glowing vase. Um, she is protected by a very powerful warrior named Peltarian, who is her bodyguard and possibly her lover, though that's not entirely made clear. She controls him somehow with a drug that she injects into him in like an old-fashioned type syringe. That fits in kind of with the steampunk theme of the whole thing. People wear steampunk outfits. And Cecily Fay was the costume designer as well for the movie, and the costumes look great. Very interesting, very steampunk kind of style. And she has a couple of more fights and she starts to win. And it's getting to the point where she's winning all the time, even if like her weapons are knocked out of her hand, and even if her defense, even if her shield is knocked out of her hand, her combat skills have improved so much that she can still beat opponents who are many times her own size. And Sorrentine is now starting to give the thumbs down to these opponents, letting her kill them, or making her kill them, basically. Azura, I don't think, really cares because she just sees these people as enemies, and her ultimate goal, as she tells Kewan, is she wants to kill Sorrentine. She says, "I'm going to kill her," as if it's just a fact. And Sorrentine starts to suspect that somebody's training her, because she says that style is not the one she had when she was first in the arena, and I think somebody's been training her. They say, well, Seth says the only one who ever sees her is that healer Kewan, and he's a wimp. He doesn't know any fighting skills. Of course, she's hidden the book, so they can't find it when they go and search her cell looking for evidence that somebody is training her. They don't find anything. They're just kind of frustrated, but in order to basically end her reign as the hero of the ring, because they don't want her to be a hero, they want her to be humiliated. They are going to bring in a very good fighter named Dahlia, who is a slave in the mines, and they're going to bring her back from the mines just for this one purpose of defeating Azura. Well, another like little subplot evolves that Kewan, there's a line of dialogue at the beginning where Azura says to Kewan, you heal people, but you also fix these slave collars. Isn't that in opposition? Are you conflicted about that? And he says, well, Sorrentine loves a dichotomy, and I'm just one of her little pets, and I have to do what she says. So now that he's an engineer as well as a healer. And that comes into play when it turns out that she and Dahlia are plotting to escape from the ring, and they recruit Kewan to help them. And he's going to create a device that will negate Seth's bracelet, so that when he tries to shock them with the shock collar, it won't work. And it will also release the shock collars. He knows how to do that. So they're planning this big fight, and the big fight takes place. Meanwhile, the rebels have decided that their force field is almost complete, but they need a power source that's powerful enough to charge it up. They don't have one, but there's a crystal in Sorrentine's office that they can use that has enough power stored in it. Another one of the trophies that she took from another world. And they're going to create a diversion and go steal the Crystal, the diversion is basically going to be the fight between Dahlia and Azura. While everybody's watching that, they're going to sneak into Sorrentine's office and steal this crystal. Um, they have the fight, and the fight is very well staged. And again, I should mention that the stunt coordinator is Cecily Fay as well. And these fights are really, really gorgeous. They look real, and obviously she knows how to handle a very varied style number of weapons, including katanas and broadswords and daggers and Chinese sai and a number of other weapons and shields as well. Again, these fights look very realistic. It must have been really difficult to do the choreography and get them all right without anybody actually being hurt. But they apparently they knock each other out, and they apparently strangle each other to death. When the Viseray guards and onlookers come in to drag their bodies out, they jump back to their feet and they kill them. And Azura jumps up into Sorrentine's box and stabs Seth right through the gut and says, "Take that, bitch." I just loved that line and the way she delivered it. Sorrentine is escorted out by her bodyguard and escapes. Meanwhile, the rebels have stolen the crystal, and they're trying to get away, but of course they're being pursued by Sorrentine's Imperial Guard, and there's very little chance that they're all going to escape unless they get some help. And the help comes in the form of, and Azura is captured, I should mention. And now Sorrentine has basically had enough of her. She's going to do the same thing to her that she did to Peltarian, which is she's going to inject her with this drug that's going to make her forget who she was and turn her into basically an assassin for Sorrentine's purposes. Before that can happen, all of a sudden the power goes out, and she breaks out. She breaks out of the chains and knocks Sorrentine out and runs out of her office. And now she's kind of thrown in with the rebels by happenstance, and she and Dahlia are helping them. Peltarian at a certain point shows up. They're going to kill him, and then he says, "No, wait, I cleared the way for you. And to prove that I'm really on your side, I brought this," and he brings the flower of Sarnia and shows it to Azura, who's suitably impressed. But you get the feeling she doesn't quite trust him. They take the flower, and they're going to take the crystal back to the water treatment, the water plant, and they're ambushed by Sorrentine's guards because, again, Peltarian betrayed them, as Azura assumed he would. And 3 of the rebels are killed, including their leader, Amber, who was played by Yenis Chung. And now there's only one girl rebel left, and unfortunately their engineer, Gully was also killed. So now they're not sure how they're going to power the thing. And Kellen says, "I'll do it. I know how to power up the crystal and get it to work." So they escape off to do that. Peltarian comes after Azura. Dahlia escapes, but Azura is drowned by Peltarian, and she keeps calling him Talaran. She says, "Don't you know who you are? You were my friend as a child, and you're Sarnian." And he says, "Oh no, I'm not. That's nonsense." And he drowns her, and Sorrentine smashes the crystal vase that holds the flower of Sarnia. Peltarian takes one of the leaves and crushes it between his fingers, says she died for this, all she wanted was this, and she died for it in the end, and he throws it in the water where he drowned her. And that turns out to be a mistake, because of course it does have the power of resurrection, and it brings Azura back to life. And now she knocks out Peltarian / Talaran and kills Commander Sorrentine, slits her throat, and takes the flower and runs off. And eventually Talaran kind of snaps out of it. He realizes who he really is. He's no longer under the effect of Sorrentine's drugs, and says, "What have I done? Forgive me." And Azura says, "Well, come on, we got to go back to Sarnia." And he says, "Well, wait a minute. What's to, even if you do cure, Sarnia with the flower, what's to stop the Viseray from just invading again? They're the most powerful, force in this section of space." And Kellen says, "Well, we'll just build another force field." So that's the answer to that. What was, basically a rhetorical question. He has a practical answer for it. I like that. That's good writing. And they do go back to Sarnia. There's Talaran and Azura. She throws the flower of Sarnia into what's a dead, kind of brown-looking lake, and the water starts to turn blue again, and the skies start to clear up. And a voiceover says that, Azura and Dahlia would face off against the Viserai again in the future, but that's another story. I thought it was really well done, well written, and another thing, and I'm certain that Cecily Fay knew this when she was writing the screenplay. It hits on all 12 aspects of Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey. It starts out in the ordinary world when she's a little girl on Sarnia. She receives the call to adventure, which is, the Viserai attack. She's hesitant to heed the call. She's hiding out on Draga. She meets the mentor, who is Kewan, who gives her the elixir, which is the book. And then there's the approach to the first threshold, which is the new battles in the arena where she's starting to win. She encounters tests, allies, and enemies. And that's, her continuing fights in the ring, and then meeting the rebels and Dahlia and the bad people, Talaran and Seth and all the bad Viserai. And then there's the ordeal, which is the final, combat between her and Dahlia, and helping out the rebels to establish the force field, which they do. And there's the reward, which is the flower of Sarnia itself, which she gets from Talaran. The road home is they go back to Sarnia from Draga. The resurrection is literal in that the flower of Sarnia both resurrects her and resurrects the Talaran's memories. And then there's using the elixir to heal the world, which she does with the flower. That's all 12 points, and I'm certain that it was written that way. The soundtrack is terrific. Cecily Fay also sings several songs during it, including the closing song, and I can't recommend it highly enough. This film was actually started in 2013, but it took 5 years to make. It wasn't released until 2018. Allegedly, there is going to be a sequel called Babes with Blades, The Sarnia Stones, which is currently in production, may have been delayed because of the Hollywood strikes, both the writer's strike and the SAG-AFTRA strike. But I would definitely like to see that. I highly recommend this as a fun, unique, interesting, kind of feminist steampunk hero tale that's just wonderful to watch. It's wonderfully acted. Cecily Fay is drop-dead gorgeous, as are most of the women in this film. Look more like fashion models, but they obviously have a lot of really good martial arts training, too, because the fights look very, very real and are coordinated very well. Film's edited well, directed well, produced well, written well. Enjoy.